Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again, here with another reaction, this time to Mr. Colin Maclachlan again, former 2-2 SAS operator, who's on the James English show podcast. I think it's called Anything Goes, and he's talking about PTSD when he was captured and tortured. So this is part 3 so far that I'm up to. So let's jump back in.
Facebook, we have our website, our app will go live at the end of the month. We'll have a dedicated phone line that will be manned 24/7. And if we can't help, we're tapped into other agencies that can, and we can signpost and help.
So anybody can contact you. So if anybody's in the struggle, man, just pick up the phone or message on Facebook. There's also Chrissy's house in Wishaw, who's a 24-hour suicide centre for anybody. Just pick up the phone and phone, because that's the scary part, Colin, especially in the army. You've got the bravado, I'm tough, this and that, but as men, it's clearly shows that we're not tough if 75% of suicides are male, and it's the numbers are rising massively each year. Do you think schooling comes into play with this as well? Getting taught how to handle feelings and emotions from a young age, instead of bottling it up, and in time we hit the 20s, 30s, it just comes crashing, and that's when the mental side is pretty all over the place.
Absolutely. I think mental health, right across the board, of course, any corporate organisation, sports team, whatever, if you've got the right mental health support networks in place, your productivity, whatever it is you're doing, is going to be better. I think that mental health...
There's a new way to cook with the Ninja Combi. With Ninja Combi cooker technology, you can...
I think there's things you can do, as long as you create platforms so that people know where to go and how to make that first step in terms of having the conversation. From there, it gets easier and easier and easier. And anybody that's written about their experiences, they've talked about it, they've listened, they went out in the hills, went for a brew, even our walk, talk and brews. That's why they're so successful. You go out in the hills, you walk up, you have a blether with people that have been through the same journey or have had similar experiences to you and come out the other side, and it just gives you that peace of mind that you're not on your own. There are people that have been that journey and come out the other side. That's just...
I love that he's mentioned that, and for me, that's part of why the message at the end is what it is, and it's just, I think it's just organically evolved to that for me, because I, just like you, just like everybody else in this world, knows what it's like to go through dark times, knows what it's like to have challenges, to feel worthless, to feel like you're failing, to feel like you're not doing enough for either yourself or for your family or for others. And that can be a heavy and lonely burden to carry for anybody. And so I love that he's touched on and spoken about, you're not on your own. You are not alone. Everybody at some stage of their life and or at some stage in their life in the future will have and or will experience things like that, and or will have multiple times where they experience very similar things like that. And you just need to keep turning up, like what James has spoken about. Reach out for help, speak to a trusted person if you have somebody. Try not to shoulder it alone. Easier said than done, particularly for males, and I know for myself as well. I haven't reached out to anybody in the past to talk about things with them. I've even bottled things up from my wife. Over the years, I've gotten better at slowly talking about things after I've gone through that misery cycle, for want of a better term, on my own, or what felt like being on my own anyway. So anyway, let's get back to Colin. I love what he's talking about so far and the questions and the direction that this conversation has been going.
Scary part is sitting thinking, right, I'm on my own, I've got nothing here, but everybody's got worth. Everybody's got something to give in life. If you're still breathing, you've got something to give. For me personally, it's hitting the hills, going for a walk, fresh air, nature, connecting. I'm social media daft. I know this is addiction for me now, and I'm constantly looking at other people living their life and going, they seem to have a great life, but I'm doing, and it kind of takes your mind away of what they're doing. So for me personally, it's going up the hills, even eating good, and I might not look at it now, put on a wee bit of weight, but it's I think eating
good, Nick.
I think eating clean walking, exercising. Exercising is a good fix for that couple of hours, but the problems are still going to be there. It's trying to get the rooted problems as well. There's a thing called inner child where you talk about the traumas and the stress, and sometimes we don't want to fucking dig it up because it's scary. It is, it's really scary. For you, yourself, are you still exercising? Are you still keeping fit? Are you still...
Yeah, I've got my kiddies at the minute, so yeah, well, I always down tools when the kiddies are here. So I ditch work, I don't hit the gym, and I try and spend every hour I can with them because, you know, I've only got them for a month over the summer and they go back and I'll regret not have wasted that time. But once they go back, I try and get myself into a routine where I know a plan. I try and have goals like anybody else. So I try and hit the gym at least 3 times a week if I can, even if it's for half an hour, an hour. I'll know I've done it and it's something I've achieved. And those small goals that you set, they all add up and they give you wee confidence builders.
Of course it is. That's all about taking the steps to the goal and the progression. It's not about the finishing line and getting to the finishing line and achieving it. It's about enjoying the journey.
Correct. Enduring and or enjoying the journey. If you want to enjoy the journey, enduring is a term that for me anyway, that helps me. Enduring the process, embracing that process. It's not always enjoyable for me personally. A lot of times it sucks, but the process is what it is, and the outcome, whatever that is, at whatever stage I happen to get there, is just a byproduct of the consistency and the discipline that I choose or choose not to put into something. And the part that he was speaking about the host, he was speaking about social media, and he mentioned a piece there about looking at, oh, their lives look great. I mean, I've shared that on a few of the end of my wrap-ups as well. Like, let's not be fooled by what we see on social media. I said even my stuff at the end, like, you know, and during and at the end, don't get me wrong, like, for me, I'm really blessed. Things just feel really awesome and things are going really well in the home with me personally, with my relationships with my family, and just everything in general, my immediate family I'm talking about. And could things be better? Yeah, things could always be better, but we're just in a really good space at the moment, and so am I, and so we'll keep chipping away at that. But that aside, you know, everybody's got stuff going on, you and me included. Your neighbor, your mum, your dad, your auntie, your uncle, your cousin, your mates. Everybody's got stuff going on in their lives that they're trying to get better at, trying to work through. Some stuff that people that you know that you may not realize that are carrying some heavy things and trying to navigate their way through that. So, I like how he's touched on this here. Them finding releases, the exercise and training. Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for that. That's a great tool. Colin got his kids, you're saying, so it sounds like him and his partner may be separated. I don't know. I'm making an assumption there, so apologies if that's wrong. But he said he's got the kids for a time and then they go back. So anyway, let's crack on listening to Colin and the host.
Stay in the present moment and enjoying it, especially when you were your kids. Were you serving then?
No, I wasn't serving when they're only 7 and 5 now. So they came after service, and in many ways that's good because, you know, I was able to be there as they were, you know, first born and have a kind of hands-on part. But I know a lot of veterans and still serving soldiers don't, because they're not given that privilege, and yeah, you miss a big part. You give up a lot.
Especially if it's your full life in it. If you've got kids, then you're away from them. That's the mental side of it as well. It's not just what you're seeing in battle, it's the mental side of being away from your family, away from your friends. When you're there, do you have phones, or do you have,
it depends where you are and what you are. You have blues letters, you have the sat phones, sometimes you've got phones you can get back, you've got access to IT and on the computer and FaceTime and stuff, but a lot of the time you're not. There's only certain allocation, and if you've got couple of hundred guys and you've only got a couple hours of, you know, you're toiling to get any real quality time in terms of messaging or writing home or stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that they give up. So I think it's one of the things that when they come back, they should just be given a little hand up to say, you know, this is going to help with whether it's relationship building or whether it's housing, jobs, community, because community is a big part of it. When you lose that community, and you speak to any veteran, the biggest thing they'll miss is the banter and being around the guys and girls and being out operations. Once they come back, they lose that sense of kind of duty, purpose, responsibility, and community. So that's why we try and recreate that. We go out in the hills and you're blethering with people that have, I remember when we were in Ireland or remember Iraq, and you're speaking to people that speak the same language, and that in itself brings them back to where they are, and they feel free in a safe environment to talk.
And that's what
I love what he spoke about there. Duty, purpose, responsibility, and community were the words that I picked up on when he was talking about that. And having a blether, I think that's like just having a chinwag, having a chat, having a cordial, having a discussion. Duty, purpose, responsibility, and community. Those all hit the nail on the head for me when he's speaking about that. That is a huge gap in terms of veterans when they leave the Defence Force, whether you choose to leave or whether it's just your time and you have to leave. It's still a gap, and it's something that I don't know if Defence Forces in general today have looked at that in terms of support for those soldiers, male or female, that look to transition out or leave. Maybe it's something that's looked at more closely now, but I don't recall it being looked at very closely, at least when I was getting out, or other people that I knew that got out before me either. So anyway.
It's all about safety, because if you're speaking to psychologists, I'm not putting psychologists down, but they are learning from books. If you're served in Iraq or whatever it is, you want to speak to somebody who understands how you're feeling. Do you know what I mean? Do you think obviously you've got the social media, you've got the platform now to obviously help others. Do you get a lot more people coming towards you? How are you dealing with that? Because it must be a lot of weight on your shoulders now.
I think that's one of the things. I always thought that I was quite solid. I had this solid mental resilience. But as I was starting to lose people through social media, that was affecting my own mental health. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd encourage somebody to go to the gym or get out the door or get up the hills. I'd feel good about myself. And then that had a kind of counter side to it, because as more and more people were getting in touch and I was trying to juggle people and speak to them and reassure them, people were falling through my fingers, and that was affecting me. And I thought, I can't sustain it. I'm one person, so that was a reason.
Were you blaming yourself for some of them?
I think you do sometimes, because you're not there. You're not at the end. You're not there to answer everybody on social media, and not within the time frames they want. And sometimes that can be frustrating, because they'll suddenly have a perception of you that probably isn't real, because we can't physically. You've got 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 followers. How do you keep them all? How do you interact with them and keep them all happy? You can't. You can only do what you can.
And you can't blame yourself, because what happens is if you blame yourself, you've automatically took your energy levels down there. So how can you help other people then? It's about doing what you can and realising, do you know what, I can't save the fucking world. We're not gods or whatever. We can't save everybody. What we can do is what we know and how we can create awareness. So for the stuff like Who Dares Wins, how did all that come about? How did you end up getting that role in that part? So it was a massive.
That's a really interesting point that he made as well. Like I think of when the numbers for my channel started to increase in terms of subscribers and stuff, I was just thinking, wow, this is amazing. But then I knew that there would probably be, or potentially there would be comments that I just might not be able to get back to. And that's something that plays on my mind, to be honest, because I genuinely try to to respond to those that take the time to put a comment on here. But I already know 100% that I'm not going to be able to sustain it. Like, the channel is continuing to grow, and I'm super grateful for that. I definitely would love it to grow, and I've made no secret of that. And I also know and have accepted the fact that I likely will miss a bunch of comments whereby I won't be able to reply. I've already missed, from what I've heard from current subscribers who have replied to multiple threads, but for whatever reason they're no longer showing up in the thread, and or I haven't received them, because I don't delete any comments on on my channel. So if people want to put a comment, I guess they can delete their comment if they put it up and they don't like it. They can do that, but I'm not bothering deleting any comments. So yeah, that's sad to hear. In terms of what Colin was going through and losing people, that would be a bit of a burden to have to carry with regards to, feeling somewhat responsible to a degree anyway. But man, yeah, that's a tough one. It's not really something that I've given a lot of thought to because it's still early days. But even with but even with the 6.5 odd thousand subscribers that I'm blessed to have, I know if they all decided to comment, there's no way I'm going to be able to get back to all of them. So, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a big show and still ongoing. And at the time, I was down on the books to help out in the TV industry with anybody that wanted help from a kind of military consultancy point of view. So make sure guys weren't firing weapons in the wrong shoulder and had the never-ending magazines and weapons back to front and all that. That's the kind of thing I wanted to do about the continuity side. And there wasn't a lot of work for it, and if there was, it was in London or abroad. And then someone contacted me and said, I've got this show, it's SAS Who Dares Wins, but they don't have any SAS, it's all SBS guys they've got on it. So I went down, met with the production team that made it, Minnow, and they were like, we'll just put the cameras up and leave you to it. You can just run it as you want. And that, the autonomy of that felt quite genuine, and it felt like it was something I wanted to be involved in rather than a kind of typical, kind of fake TV show where it was supposed to be reality, but wasn't really.
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy it then?
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the first series, and I enjoyed the distance travelled with a lot of the people that were on it. I felt like we'd made a real impact on their lives. That was people that we were setting off that had a real outer coating of mental resilience, having been through that, and confidence to get through, boundaries that they probably wouldn't think they would have had they not been through otherwise. And everybody else that watched it as well.
It was a very popular show. Was the training as tough as it looked?
I think, well, we only had kind of a week with these guys, and it's 6 months selection. So there's obviously only certain things we could do. Having said that, some of the individual things that we took out of it, like the fan dance and the CFT, they're exactly the same as what you do in selection. It's just you do it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. No, it's tense, but
yeah.
So for the motivational speaking and stuff, because I know you're doing all this, how did that come about? Also, are you enjoying speaking to everybody else and trying to lift their spirits and guide them a bit? Are you enjoying that?
Yeah, I love travelling around. I love seeing different organisations and what they're doing and the little things that they might want support in, whether it's teamwork, leadership, motivation, elite performance. And I find that through some of the experiences I've had and some of the journeys and some of the learning points from it, I think if you can adapt to that, and you can do anything. So there's a lot of positive messages that come through it, and I love doing it.
That's good. For your kids or that, would you, if they want to join, would you advise them to join, or would you kind of say, nah?
It's a good question, and I think it would depend where the military is at that time. I think whenever if you want to join the military, there's a lot of things you want to do, and operations is part of it. Nobody wants to join the army, serve 22 years, get out, and all they've done is kind of guard Buckingham Palace or something. You want to do operations. Having said that, you don't want it to be you don't want to get into an operational cycle you can't get out of, and that's why we're seeing problems now where promotional side, the training, all the other stuff, the character building stuff that comes with the military wasn't happening because guys were just coming from operation to operation. That can burn you out, and it can have a kind of negative effect on the military as well, because people will think, that's me, I've done my conflict, I'm getting out now, rather than seeing it as a career. So it does damage on both counts, especially now where we see the regulars are shrinking.
Does many people last? Do they last? Does a lot of people last the 22 years or whatever? Do they get to that level, or is it numbers dropping massively?
I think now you would see the numbers dropping. Traditionally, kind of prior to 2000, I think you would have saw a lot of people come through and do their 22 years and see it as a career with sporadic operations, whether it's the Falklands, the First Gulf and Northern Ireland. Now, I think if you looked at 2000 onwards, you'll see a lot of people have come out in really short cycles because they go do operations and think, right, if that's operations A, I've seen it, and B, it's not for me for a long term.
Is it because there's more wars then, because people are seeing that much shit that they want to drop out, or is it as bad as it was in the 60s or 70s? Or
I think it's a mix of things. I think that some of the support elements, so that you're seeing guys having a career within the military where there's all the things that are out with operations. So all the times that you go to different countries and you do training, you learn about that country, and you've got the kind of R&R there. You've got your promotional courses, so that when you leave, regardless of the operations, you've had a career that's shaped you in one way or another based on everything you've done over that 22 years. And it's been a kind of gradual hill it's climbed and manageable. Whereas kind of post 2003 with the operational cycle, guys are going in there and just 100 miles an hour for 3 to 5 years, and like, oh, that's me. I've done like 5-6 tours, which traditionally you might, in a generation before, it would take you 22 years to do that number of tours. And they're just...
I recall just listening to Colin speak about this. I recall the fight that I had in the cage, the one that I did a reaction to, that's on the members channel. The guys that came, so Ben Robert Smith and then a few of the other lads that were there that evening in Perth for that fight night. I remember RS and a couple of the other guys just talking about how tired they were and how burnt out. And I remember RS speaking to me that night post my fight and just saying that that was probably going to be his last year, or he may do 1 or 2 more years, and then that he was going to get out. And he was just feeling the pinch of the operational tour and cycles that they were in from, I think, 2006. And I would have seen those guys would have been there, I think that was 2011, maybe 2012. So 5-6 years back to back to back to back rotations in and out of theatre. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to hear that, but then not surprised once I heard and listened more about how little time they were getting at home and how many deployments with such a short break in between, not even really a break in between, before then going again. So hearing Colin speak about this, it's a really good conversation and things to consider for those that have served, those that know people that have served, especially within the recent sort of global war on terror stuff period that happened from, 2006 onwards, where things really ramped up, I guess. And yeah, and for anybody looking to go into the military in terms of where things are at now, mind you, in saying that, we've got Israel and Iran at each other's throats, and America's in the pipeline, and no doubt there'll be other countries watching on the periphery, on the fringes, to see what happens. But what's that? We'll keep going on this.
Coming out and being burnt out, and with all that trauma that's come with it, with people that they've lost left and right of them.
That's where, so the 22 years they're getting kind of, they're getting worked too hard.
I think at the minute with the operational cycle, post 2003, I think that's what's happened. I think a lot of people have become either disenchanted with what conflict is, or the operational burnout's been too much, or they're not getting time to do the promotional side of it that they want to do, or the other things that they kind of wanted to do within the military hasn't happened. And coupled with that, some of the opportunities have come alongside conflicts like the security industry. That's taken a lot of the military away, where they say, well, look, I can earn in 5 years what I'd earn in my entire career in the military, so I'll go and do this, and at least I'll be kind of set for life. And that's a very hard cycle to get out of.
So you're trying to, obviously doing it for the money, trying to blast it out so they can get out quicker, but realistically it's really fucking their mind because they're doing that much stuff. It's scary. It is. It's scary to think that that's the kind of shit that's going on. It's scary to think. Did you see before you get an operation like that? Do you get briefed, or is it just a case of, look, you're going there, such a place, for do you get a timeline, or do you get told? Or?
Yeah, there's normally briefs, and there's very few operations you'll go on where there's not some kind of brief and training leading up to it. But in the past, you may have done a 6 months tour in Northern Ireland. There would be about 6 months build up to that, and people would get a whole load of leave in, a load of training, work within your multiples. You'd get all the environmental stuff about what Northern Ireland's like, and then you'd go off and do your tour. And even within that tour, you'd get a period of R&R. And then after you'd come back, you'd have leave, and you probably wouldn't go back out on an operational tour for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Now, guys are doing 6 months, coming back, and a few weeks later, a few months later, going straight back out. Could be Iraq again, could be Afghanistan. And although that's slowing down now, there was a chunk there after 2003 where that was taking its toll.
See, after an operation, you came home, did some people, how was the mindset then? Was it kind of, this doesn't feel real, going back into normality, and did that feel weird?
Yeah, I think what we forget is that we take normal, ordinary people. That's what our servicemen and women are, myself included. And we put them in extraordinary situations, and then we lift them back up and we put them back in, 45 Main Street in Glasgow or Edinburgh, and they go to the shops and they cut the grass. And those are very difficult hats to keep on and off, particularly with some of the stuff they've been doing, particularly when they've been hypervigilant for such a long stay and then come back home. It's very hard to switch on and off.
Because there's a paranoia kick in then. Do you feel weird like walking down the street, and are you constantly on edge, obviously, whatever you've seen in operations to come? And do you get paranoid? Do you try to sleep and noises? Are you up, because that's what you're trained to do, to be aware?
I think so. And I think the vast majority of servicemen and women that come back from operations, those are typical symptoms where it's very hard to switch off and relax and zone out. You're always in this state of, you'll go in somewhere, it's crowded, and you'll be just wondering where the exits are and who that person is that came and sat down there with a backpack. It's very hard to come out and extract yourself from that and just relax. And when you're going at that state, the mind's under constant pressure.
Yeah. Are you dealing with it better now then that you're out and you've been out for a few years now? Is it becoming easier? Is it still the same? Are you still aware of the situation?
I think there's certain elements that I still struggle with. The hypervigilance is one, sleeping's another, but there's a whole host of things that can help, and I've certainly found it helpful tapping into those. I've spoke myself to psychologists. I've had certain elements of medication that help with sleep. I certainly find speaking and sharing to other people who have been through like-minded stuff very helpful. I'd recommend that to anybody as the kind of first step. Particularly, I think people think army or whatever, and they think, well, there's this element of macho stuff, but if they see someone in special forces at the front line that's coming out with it, I think it's easier then to come out themselves and say, you know what, I've struggled with one or two of that stuff myself, and that's the first step.
It doesn't almost.
I love that he's spoken about that. I'm probably going to use this to wrap up here. It's just under 30 minutes right now, but interesting to hear, and takes a lot of courage. I haven't had the courage to do that yet, but I know it takes a lot of courage, and that's because I've lacked the courage to do it. I think I heard him speak about, he's spoken with psychologists, he's spoken with medical professionals with regards to cycles of medication to help him with sleep and that sort of stuff, and talking with people that have some of that shared lived experience. That part I feel like I can do, and have that connection with people that have some of that same shared lived experience, or even far more types of whether it's tragic or horrific, for want of a better term, more so that I can learn and hear from them in terms of what they've done to get through that. But awesome to hear and see this guy, who I had the privilege to work with for a bit of time whilst we were in and out of Iraq and in and out of Baghdad in particular, working on one of the media contracts at the time. So good to see him doing well. Great to hear the stuff that he's been doing in the background and in the foreground, I guess, as well, with Who Dares Cares, I think is what it was called in one of the other reactions, and the charity and stuff that they have to help veterans, and having sounds like a full wraparound support system in place to help those. And it's not just for military veterans, it's for anybody that's dealing with and struggling with stress. So that's a beautiful thing. Anyway, if you stuck around this long, appreciate you. Thank you all very much. As always, anybody going through any difficulties, hard times, challenges, heartache, heartbreak, whatever it may be, man, just know that you're not alone. Just like Colin and this guy James English has said, know that you're not alone. Know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Things can do and will get better, I promise you. They're only temporary. This misery and the loneliness that you may be feeling at this time, as heavy and as hard and as miserable as it may be, it will not last forever. The sun will shine again. There are better days ahead, and they are coming for you. They are closer than you think. So stick at it. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.